I'm here to learn the ethics of marketing while making a lot of money.
Wait a minute, is that possible?
I know it's possible, but I have all these feelings.
Well, wait a minute, no, I'm going to back up.
Okay.
It is oftentimes the mental set that the way that you're going to make lots of money is to be a very clever advertiser.
Right, not what I want. I want to reach people from the heart, be of service so they can hear me, so I can inspire them that when they come for more than 5 or 6 sessions. They don't chicken out.
Yeah. Okay.
And I want to be able to do that so I can reach them from my heart, have ethical marketing, and along the way make a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. And the interesting thing is a lot of people have the perception that to do it ethically, to center it around the truth and not the clever, enticing wording and all that stuff, is somehow or other, you can't make as much money doing that. And I suggest you a lot more if you do it right. So we're going to spend time on that today. First of all, I'm going to center this around, obviously, EFT, because I'm the founder of that, and that's the one procedure here that I put forward. Some of you may represent other disciplines and other energy psychology, et cetera, and that's fine. I'm just going to focus on this, but the same concepts will be the same throughout. I don't care what technique you tend to be using. Okay. We're going to explore truly persuasive marketing. We may have to redefine the term persuasive, but I think you'll see as we go through this that using some of these principles will get you far further down the road than some of the things that have been put forward recently on the internet. With these procedures, you can actually have more clients than you can possibly handle. Okay? But that doesn't mean, I want to back up on that a second. That doesn't mean I'm going to give you an idea or two and say, oh my goodness, I just do that. Next thing you know, everybody goes running in your door. A lot of this is going to be stuff, it's a mindset. It's an awareness of your own. It's practice, trial and error and things like that. So you get your version of this down. But the ideas are very hard to argue with. But the point is, you're not going to run out here all of a sudden and just, hey, one idea, ding. No, it's going to take work on your part to structure what you're doing accordingly. However, properly done, it is far more effective and much less expensive than the hype and the embellishments that we tend to think of as good marketing. Let me see. I could probably take my notes. I have all the PowerPoint things here in notes. I could probably read this to you in 15 or 20 minutes. Okay? And then we'd all be done. I'd say, here's the pearls of wisdom, and we're done. Okay? But that's not what's going to make this thing work. What's going to make this thing work is we'll put the ideas out, but as I said earlier, it's my conversations with you and what everybody else hears as we have cross-fertilization of the ideas. Because I want to have these ideas that we put here put into the real world so that you see that, you say, well, how's that going to work for me? I want to hear that from you. Because somebody else in this room has a similar question to it. And that's how we start embedding this. So we want to get the idea we're going to have a day-long, largely, some of this is lecture, but largely conversation. So I got to thinking to myself, who is the best marketer of our time? Anybody have an idea? Anybody want to tell me who you think the best marketer of our time is? Go ahead.
P.T. Barnum.
P.T. Barnum, okay. Who else?
Steve Jobs. Oprah.
Oprah, And somebody said Steve Jobs, okay. Let me zero in on Oprah for a moment, if I may, because that's the one example I was going to use, but the others, yes, same principles involved, all right. I can't say that about P.T. Barnum because I really didn't follow P.T. Barnum, but Steve Jobs, yes. Oprah, yes. But, so let me go on to my next little slide here. But the question I have, and this is very important to get through or to discuss, let me do this again, is why is Oprah so effective? So let me go back here to you. Why is she effective? You can hold that.
Okay. Well, when you asked the question, I just thought of who does everyone know and listen to, and she sells more books than anybody
Well,
else? Would she recommend
she-
a book?
Yeah, she sells books, but see,
But the
she
why I
doesn't.
hadn't thought about.
Well,
I think I see what you're going. So she does come from the heart. She's very sincere about what she believes.
She's very, but it isn't, as I recall of it, I don't watch her all the time.
I've never watched her actually.
Okay, but she brings people on who sells books or DVDs
Well, she
or
used
some
to
kind of a
recommend
method.
books. She had a book list.
Oh, okay. But she'll bring people on, and people will come on there and they'll tout their book, let's say, but
Yeah.
there's other products. And almost instantly, boom, we have a New York Times bestseller. Very religiously, you come on her show, you know, show your wares, if you will, and bingo, you know. So what were the words you used? What?
Sincere?
Sincere.
I don't remember the word. Comes from the heart.
Okay. All right. Great. You don't want me to call on you, do you? Why else?
She was on a major non-cable network during the day, so everybody could see her. She was out there.
Yeah, she's on your TV set, right? Okay, that helps, doesn't it? Who else has some thoughts about why? Oh, why? Yeah, go ahead, Susan.
She has lots of credibility.
A lot of credibility. Explain to me why she has credibility.
People seem to resonate with her opinions and her thoughts. And when she says something, it feels more valuable. It feels valuable.
Yes, but what I want to explore is, what is this intangible thing? Why is it so credible to her? I'll get to you in a second. Well, let me give you a clue. Okay. And I'm not a religious watcher of hers, okay? But I do know, as the world knows, she's had a major weight problem. And she'll lose her weight and gain her weight and lose her weight. And she's always talking about her personal frailties. She becomes very real in that sense.
Authentic.
She's had authentic. She's had an abusive background and so on. And she talks about that with everything about her you know. Or
Right.
it appears that way. Okay?
Right.
All right, thanks. All right. Okay. And what's your name? Jolie, yes, okay.
So the word that authentic came, but also is she's true to herself.
True to herself.
Yes.
And what, give me something behind that. How do you know she's true to herself?
Well, if she disagrees with something, she doesn't try to. She doesn't try to hide it. She respects others and she respects herself.
Yeah. And so if she is talking with a book author, for example, she'll grill them on the kind of, what do you mean when you said in chapter 8 I'm not sure I get that. You know, why would you say that? Am I correct? And she'll do that. And so you as the listener hear the downside to this product as well as the upside and so on. So you get the idea that, gee whiz, this is somebody with Oprah who's giving me the straight scoop, okay? So let me go on here a little second about Oprah. Have you ever heard Oprah at any time, just a minute. Another comment, we'll get the comment first, hold on a second. Yeah.
She's confident enough to be frail and real.
She's confident enough, yes, yeah.
And she always says she puts God above everything else. And if there's ever a question, she goes to her intuition.
Yeah.
That's her primary source for everything.
Yes.
And she's just unbelievably certain and confident.
Yes, okay, and that exudes largely, in my view, from the fact that she's open and wants to be believable. Okay? Now, let me ask you this. Let's take this example again. If Oprah was visiting with an author and she says to the audience, okay, now if you want this book, you got to buy it by Friday, and if you do, you'll get 3 bonuses, and if you don't do that, well, you know, you won't get all these secrets. What would happen if she did that? Go ahead, Henry.
Absolute turn off.
Turn off. Why?
Well, sounds like a snake oil salesman.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
well.
yeah. Now, who else has a comment on that? Yeah, go ahead, Allison. I'm
Well,
sorry.
then she would suddenly become like everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would weaken her, wouldn't it? And I point that out because there are so many advertising efforts out there that use the clever words and the hype and the special offers and so on and so forth. Because why? Well, because they are effective. I mean, they do make sales with that. But what happens to their believability? Down, right? So, what makes her so effective? I have an answer for you. Ready? And she's believable. That's the most important point, a central point that I want to make for the entire time that we're together. It's how to be believable, because that is far more effective than any other form of advertising out there. How to be believable. And of course that starts from within. You've got to be believable within yourself before you become believable out there. You can't just fake it. You can fake it for a while, but eventually people pick up where you're really coming from, and your believability gets watered down. See, if Oprah was not believable, if Steve Jobs was not believable, they wouldn't go nearly as far. Nearly as far. How many of you here were involved with EFT around the time I first started this, in the mid-90s, maybe year 2000, something like that? Can I see your hands? Oh, that's a few of you. Okay. For those of you who were there, how many of you saw any advertising that I did? I see 0 hands. And that's because there was no advertising, okay? 0. I did absolutely 0. And yet EFT is in the hands of millions all around the world, okay? But there was 0 advertising. So what I want to explore with you now is what happened with EFT, because we're going to use the same principles here, to have it grow like it grew. What were the principles involved? And those are the principles we can launch off of, for the rest of the day, because you can use them just as well as I did. First of all, let's remember, when I started this thing out, EFT and the whole idea of energy psychology or tapping on the meridian system was unknown. It's basically just unknown. And so what I had to do was make the unbelievable believable, because that technique is just simply unbelievable, is it not? And I can't tell you how many clients that we had clear back there in those days. The new clients would just look at you with their eyes crossed. What? You did what? Yeah, it worked, but that's because, all my other therapy finally worked, or they give you all these other reasons and stuff. They just could not put their belief systems around this. So what would have happened? We have to speculate now. What would have happened? No, I'm going to back up. So to make it believable, I had to do certain things, okay? And one of those was to not use all the hype and the embellishments and everything else. Because if I'd have done all of that and said, oh, hey, we got some psychotherapeutic experts here, and for $19.95 or $199.95 or whatever, you can learn all of their secrets here, but make sure you do it now, and make sure blah, 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 all this other stuff that goes on and on and on and on and on. I think I would have destroyed it, okay? It would have just fallen into the little wastebasket. A few people would use it, maybe it would grow, etc. But it wasn't believable, because mainstream would look at that and go, It's hard to believe as it was, but then to put all this other stuff on it weakened it still further, okay? So what I did, if you'll remember, is I broke the whole thing up in what was then called the EFT manual. And I put all the basics in there, I put some of the more sophisticated uses in there, and made it free on the internet. And so people started downloading that for free. Well, does that help with believability? Okay. Indeed, because, gee, you're not just teasing me here, you're actually giving it to me. So that helps with believability. Now, does that mean you should give everything you do away? No. But the principle, which we will unfold as time goes on, of giving something away is useful in all of this. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
Was your intention when you gave it away for
Wait, go ahead.
Was your intention when you gave it? What was your intention when you gave it away for free?
My intention when I gave it away for free was I wanted the world to use it. I thought that if they actually took it and used it, that they would get results with it, and that would start spreading, because the product itself was strong enough that would happen.
But that it doesn't sound to me like. It sounds to me like you were giving a gift.
It was.
It wasn't something that you wanted to make money out of, or you
That's
wanted
correct.
to make a living from.
That's correct. That doesn't mean you can't make money from it. Okay, but that's a good question, yes. Indeed, as it turned out, those who got the manual, many of them, that was fine for them, that's all they needed, and that was fine. But many of them said, well, wow, this is pretty good, what else is there? And when they do that, and first of all, this is being given away, what else is there? Let me look on this website. There's some videos that will teach me some more things. I mean, this manual is not in video form, is it? No, so I want to watch it happen. There's a workshop being given. Maybe I'll attend that, you see. So it became an entree for this, and then they would tell their friends, I got this manual, this stuff kind of works. I don't know why, but here's a link, go get your own manual, And when I retired from that big website in 2010, that manual had been downloaded 1.4 million times. And that does not count the over 20 translations of it. By the way, voluntary translations. People in France and Germany and everywhere were translating this in these various languages for free. They just wanted their countrymen to do it. Okay? So, what I'm doing with this is developing some concepts for you that we'll launch into later. But I'm using, do you see how I'm using concepts similar to what Oprah uses? See, we are establishing believability. And it's particularly hard in this case because the general topic is the opposite. You do not believe it to begin with. People believe it now, but not then. I didn't mention this, but at that time I didn't get anybody's endorsement. Nobody was endorsing me. Okay, nobody said, this is really great, some celebrity or some well-known person or something. Nobody would do that. I would get resistance. What are you doing? You're upsetting the status quo, if you will, of what's supposed to be acceptable. But I did have an extraordinary product, and I had, this is an important term for later, product congruence. And that is, I was very congruent with this product. That is, I knew what it would do. I'm going to ask some people here. Okay. Joe, let me ask you. What does EFT do well?
Make shifts in people. It diminishes fears. It less anxious. It just totally relaxes the individual, and they get instant belief. It just happened to me.
Sometimes, more so today. The instant belief is more so today than it was some years ago. Believe me, okay. But yeah, it just happened. So what's? Give me some of his weaknesses.
Well, originally what I found when I learned how to do it was adding the 9 gamut in,
Mhm.
and people would go, okay, well, I can tap, 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 and then we get to the hum, and they go, that's it.
Yeah,
I'm out of
okay.
here.
So
Yeah.
a weakness is part of the process is the turnoff.
Yeah, there is.
Okay. Okay. And other weakness?
Well, some people at first just don't believe that anything can work that fast,
Yeah.
that simple.
That's true. That's a weakness.
And learning it themselves, doing it for themselves when society's been trained to go to a practitioner. So having to take it on and actually do it themselves.
Mhm. That's also a positive about it because you can
Correct.
do it yourself. Okay, thank you. Let me ask this same question a little bit differently. What does it not do? Who can give me what does it not do? Oh, we need some lessons here, folks. What does it not do? Karen, what does it not do?
It doesn't cause harm.
Well, okay. That's all?
Stuff, you can calm them down.
Yeah.
It never, I'm a psychotherapist, and it calms people down, and even if it goes somewhere where you weren't intending, they can tap and
Okay, but that's actually a strength of it.
yes.
Okay, and it's interesting. I thought I'd get a lot of people saying, but it won't do this, and that's what I'm looking for. What is it won't do? Because if we're going to be congruent about the product, we want to know what it will do and what it won't do, and we need to really understand that well. Okay, go ahead, Allison.
I tell my clients that it does not replace essential medical care. If you break your arm, you need to get it set.
Yeah, there we go. Now we got a real negative, because it will not set your broken bone.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, that's a weakness, if you will. Nobody expects it to either, but it won't do that. Go ahead, Richard.
It doesn't cure addictions. It can help with stop the craving. It doesn't get the person over the addictions.
Okay.
And also personality disorders can help with some aspects or behaviors or feelings, but isn't likely to cure the personality disorder in and of itself.
And give me an example of a personality disorder that would be in that category.
Borderline.
Borderline, okay. And what else? Anything else?
Well, yeah, probably dependent personality disorder, psychopathic.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, let me ask the audience here, will EFT cure addictions? Henry says what?
Well, there's enough evidence that it can.
That it can?
In the hands of people who have developed the skills.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Iwo.
Yeah, EFT can help in taking away the emotional charge that induces addiction tendency.
Yeah.
And when it does, it cures it.
Yeah. Actually, in EFT view, what we're really talking about here is the emotional charge that drives the addiction, and yes, that's what we aim at, and yes. But what is the success rate on actually collapsing an addiction? Well, you're nodding your head like none, okay? But I don't think that's actually accurate, okay? Because I've taken care of some myself that did work. Go ahead.
I'm living proof.
Okay, well, prove away.
I was addicted to a prescription pain medication and a sleeping medication for 7 years.
Okay. And so, well, let's go through that for a moment. So you used EFT on that, and in your view, that collapsed the addiction?
It collapsed the issue that created the addiction.
Okay.
And
that was an emotional issue of some kind?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't born an addict.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Okay. So the proper use of EFT in your case collapsed the addiction?
Absolutely.
You don't have any sense of ever having relapsing or anything now? And
I recognize issues and aspects of my life that if I weren't currently using EFT, I might go back to that, but I never have any draw or desire to engage in that type of behavior.
Okay, all right, great, thanks. So we have on the one hand, Richard, whose experience is you can't do it. We have others that say, well, it's been done.
I've only worked to date with one person who had an addiction, and she was part of a weight group that I was doing, and she was addicted to bread, French bread in particular. And after tapping with her, she hasn't had any desire for bread. So that I have 100% because that's the only person I've worked for with addictions.
And I have a situation, this was clear back in the 1990s, where I was at the break of a workshop tapping with some lady for her addiction to coffee. So we had coffee right there, we tap, 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 we're trying to get her beyond her coffee addiction. And another fellow was 5-6 feet away watching us, okay? I forgot what happened with the lady, but the guy called me, like 2 weeks later and said he never had any coffee since, okay? But the point about that is bread and coffee are, while they're addictive substances, they're not as strong as heroin and cocaine and some of these other things. So there is degrees of this stuff as well, and same with alcohol and all of that, okay? But the point about all this is congruence. The point about it is to really understand what it is that will do really well, and maybe stated differently, what it is you can do really well with it, because maybe if you had more training and et cetera, and you got more skills and experience, you could do more with it. So it's to understand within you what you can or cannot do with this. And know when you're talking to the client what you can or can't do with this. And when you do that and you're Oprah-like and you're very straight with that within yourself, then when you talk with a client, that straightness, if you will, that congruence shows up, whether you're trying to practice the right words or not. The point is to get very congruent with yourself. So what will EFT do and what will it not do? And addictions, thank you, is a very good example, because we do not have an across the board, boom, we're going to take care of your addictions. We come close to that with phobias, and we come close to that with headaches. But I don't think there's a single thing we can just say, this is it, one round of EFT, and you're going to be done with that problem. No, that particular problem may take a whole session. It may take 3 or 4 sessions, depending on the person, depending on the complexity, okay? But we need to be congruent within ourselves. So what I'd like to have you do now, this is a little personal exercise, is to sit down and write out 5 things that EFT will not do. This is to help you with your congruence. Okay. Kevin, what will EFT not do?
Well, actually, I looked at it from, you said make it personal.
Sure.
What I don't do with EFT, I'm not a licensed psychologist or a medical professional.
Sure.
So anything that is diagnosed medically or physical injuries, for example, I would say that I don't do that with EFT. However, what I say is we work on the emotional issues, and if they happen to be a contributor to the symptoms, that's the part that it would be effective.
Okay, that's covering your tail with the medical profession is what that is. Okay. Yeah, okay.
So make it simple. If I were to make a list, physical injuries, for example, I cannot say categorically that EFT would work with any kind of physical injuries.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
I could say that there are emotional components to it that EFT would help. But if I have an accident, for example, like you just said, broken bone, I can do that. I cannot do that with EFT. But if I have anger or frustration, other things associated with the incident, then I take care of that. That would help the healing process.
Okay, but let's talk about that for a minute, okay? Because it's part of, I'm getting into details here for the congruence part of it. And we're going to have these conversations so you get more and more of an idea of what does do and doesn't do and so on, okay? But when I do with EFT, if somebody comes to me with a pain, typically, the first thing I do is I don't bother at the moment with going underneath for specific events and emotional issues, etc. Their shoulder hurts, tap, 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 tap. And in many cases, it's fine, We don't have to even do the rest of it, all right? So I see that a lot. Now, do I hear from you that you can't do that?
No. Yes, we can do that. It's just the explanation of it I was giving.
Yes, okay.
Is that the way it's working is on the emotional issue, is not at the physical, bone connection and whatever that
Well,
I don't really understand.
I don't even know if that's accurate, and that's just you and me debating a topic, because there's a lot of things we don't know, okay? I don't even know if that's accurate, because I didn't aim, in my example, for any emotional issues, just my shoulder hurts, you know, even though I have this hurt
I guess
shoulder. you know.
probably I should put it in this way. I'm not qualified to say whether it works at that level,
Yes.
how it
Okay.
works.
All right, but I'm going to go on. Odette, what will EFT not do?
Won't change your age.
You're right. Anything else it won't do?
That's one I'm comfortable with. Everything else is a question of.
Okay, all right. What will EFT not do?
It's a really hard question.
Okay, well, after it.
There's a lot of things. I think I agree with what a gentleman said earlier about personality disorders. It won't cure them.
Well, let me give you an example now. When I was running my larger website, there was one gal, because you mentioned, Richard, you mentioned borderline. She was borderline. She took care of it herself. Now that's highly unusual, okay? But she tapped herself. The only emotional issues, we went back to specific events of her own and so on. Tap, and she had no symptoms left by her evaluation anyway. Now, do I conclude from that voila, EFT takes care of borderlines? Should I do that? No. We have one case where it certainly appeared to be that way, and I've heard other reports. From a congruence point of view, and this is my view, but I'm going to ask you about where you're coming from on that. Is it more accurate to say borderline and other personality disorders are certainly challenging with EFT? Would that be a more, I don't want to put words in your mouth, would it be a more truthful statement? A more congruent?
They're very challenging to any clinical practice.
Yeah, indeed they are.
Traits that we're going to work with. It's the traits of the personality disorders that we can help with.
The
Because
traits?
in order to get that
You mean like the
diagnosis-
symptoms and stuff?
Yeah, well, there's certain traits that they have, and in order to have that diagnosis, they have to have, the DSM says 7 out of 10 things and that type of thing. They can help with some of those traits.
Yes.
But which are kind of the symptoms that we see, right? There's suicidality, that kind of thing.
Okay. And what may happen, I don't know what's going to happen with your circumstances, but as time goes on and you get your skills with anything, including EFT, improve, you may find that you're making more headway than you thought you might, in which case your congruence changes, right? But the important thing is to be congruent. So when a client comes in that's borderline, for example, you're not going to say, oh good, EFT's going to take care of that, in 20 minutes, do you have that much time? No, you're going to say, if you're congruent, you're going to say, well, we may be able to make some progress with EFT. We'll have to take a look. We'll see what happens in one session, then you and I can both know. Okay? More congruent, is it not? Is it more believable? Another thing is, you have not set the sights so high that when you fall short of that, you're going to lose your client, lose respectability, and so on. Let me give you another example, if I can. That has to do with autism. I have never, ever seen anybody use EFT to cure autism. Never. There's been a lot of cases out there, but I've never seen it. I have seen many, many cases where the behaviors that the autistic person has have improved dramatically around the house. Their anger tantrums and so on and so forth are better, but it hasn't been cured, at least to my understanding and from what I hear from people. Now, maybe somebody's cured it someplace and I don't know about it. But from a congruence point of view, if somebody comes in with autism, what would I say? Oh, EFT is just a thing? Would I say that if I'm congruent? No. I'm lying to them and who else? To me. And does that show up in the way I talk with people? If I'm lying within myself and I'm being unethical, to use a buzzword for today, within myself, it's going to show up even if I'm good at faking it for a while. Okay? Because the reality is, at least in my experience, no, we can improve autism and it's certainly worth a shot. But are we going to cure it? I don't think so, but let's give it a try. See, now we're coming from congruence, you see? Okay, go ahead, back here. Go ahead, you can hold it.
I don't use EFT. but I worked as a medical doctor for many, many years, and ethics is obviously important. And what I hear you say is the difference between the personal congruence. So, as a practitioner, what I have experienced, so I can say, well, with any tool, from my own experience, this works, this doesn't work. But for example, I'm not very good at addicts. So even if I know this tool would work with an addict, I wouldn't be able to state as personally that I've experienced.
Sure, you'd be congruent. You'd be congruent in that.
So I think there's two issues of congruency. One that has to do with the product, the tool.
Yes.
So you may be able to cure or heal addiction with EFT, but if I have not done it myself, I would not be able to state that.
Yeah, and so what you might say is, you know, I've heard that EFT could maybe do something with the addiction. It may be a useful thing, and I know of somebody down the hall who does that, you know.
Exactly.
But for me personally, well, what I might do is I might say, well, you know, I'm kind of new at this, but we could give it a try right here. You'll be an expert. I won't even charge you. We'll just give it a shot.
But I think that's very important, that with the tool, even though you know that it works generally, there's a difference between that. Also, when you're stating it, when you're advertising, whatever you're doing, that there's a difference between what the tool's supposed to do and what you can do with it.
Yeah, of course. And that's part of the congruence, as you mentioned. I think we mentioned that earlier as well, but thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
It will not violate anyone's free will.
It will not violate, give me an example.
The example that's coming immediately to mind was from your training tapes was, you know, chocolate, you know. You said you can go back to the chocolate anytime.
Oh,
and we can all return to whatever it is. It's our choice.
Yeah, of course.
To practice, it's our choice to maintain. It's our choice, whatever we believe is a choice.
Yeah, in a way, although it was stated like what it won't do kind of thing, that's also a positive, because we're not really going to take away your free will. We're not really going to do that. We're not going to make you, the common thing we talk about, your height phobias, is you can go to the top of the building and you won't feel like you have to throw up and all that, kind of get dizzy and all that, but it's not going to make you stupid, so you won't jump off the top.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, yeah.
I had a personal experience in level 1 with EFT. I have rheumatoid arthritis and I ended up with a joint flare-up. So I now use EFT protocol with psychic hands. So I would never recommend that someone, or say they're quadriplegic, I would maybe talk to them about the protocol, but I would, you know, talk about the psychic hands, and I would add that to it because that's how it works for me.
Okay.
And I would be, anybody with repetitive movement issues or injuries, I would hesitate to tell them to tap.
Okay, and that's being congruent with yourself?
Yes.
Okay, and interestingly enough, if I had a client that was disadvantaged in some way where we shouldn't be tapping with them, okay, I would do it surrogately.
Yes,
you know, I would do it on myself for them.
Yes,
you know.
I actually have a lot of stuff, puppets and such that I do.
Sure. And there's a whole other area of congruence, because some people really like the surrogate work, and I'm going to be exploring that a lot as time goes on. Other people go, you know. So are you good at it or not? You need to be congruent with that, you know. So.
I have found that even my animals have varied in
Whoops, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have found that even in working with my animals, my personal animals, that some of them like to be worked on with the touch, and some of them prefer the surrogate.
Yeah, and so that's, right, that's understanding your client and so on, okay? Yeah. One more, and then we're going to take a little break here. Maybe two more. Go ahead.
Something I do, and I learned this from one of your tapes, is when someone comes in with grief as an issue, I'll tell them that EFT won't necessarily cure their grief, but that it can help them a lot with coping with different parts of it. But that a lot of grief is a natural healing process, and that's not going to go away.
Yeah, and that's being congruent. There are some people who would say, what you need to do with EFT, and I think this is their misconception, and maybe their need to somehow embellish things, you know. Oh, we need to do grief the moment after somebody dies, you know, because you don't have to go with that anymore. Well, no, I don't know about that. I think there's a time and all that. But myself, where I'm congruent about the grief thing is, I'd like to take care of what the excess is, the unnecessary part of it. And they're usually over the top, and you can take the edge off, okay? So I'm congruent there. I'm not going to say, you know, you're just going to whistle through life on this grief topic from this point forward, but take the edge off. One more, go ahead here, Sandy.
It won't erase a memory.
That's true. It won't erase a memory. Some people might want to have a memory erased, okay? But it won't do that. When I deal with the veterans, they have memories they'd like to have erased. But what happens is they have such a hard time getting back to them that it's almost like they were erased. And I remember hearing some of the veterans say, I can't find it anymore. Now, does that mean they forgot it? No. It just means they can't find it the same way. You know, but we got to be congruent about these things.